The squat represents something that is extremely accessible to everyone and also significantly scalable. People think that they need different exercises as they go through the process. Oh, I need to do a different exercise. When you're first starting out with the rehabilitation, it's hard enough to learn how to perform the squat correctly. And we always need to have these two very important guiding principles with our rehab exercises. And that is that they need to be aggravation-free, not pain-free, aggravation-free, with correct technical execution of the movement. So if we take the squat, for example, as we go down through the squatting motion, we should be doing a little bit of a hip hinge, right? Sticking our bum backwards, and the spine should remain neutral. I'm holding this here because the spine doesn't bend. But so often people struggle with the simple execution of a squatting motion. Just literally practicing it. So they maybe need to hold on to their partner's hands. They realize they can only go 1/4 of the way down on the squat. They need to practice the movement and coordinating the hips, knees, and ankles balance in the real world. You need to do that anyway, whether you're getting up out of a chair or whether you're practicing the squat. But practicing the squat with intention can lead to the improvement of the skill almost instantly. And so it's really accessible to absolutely anyone. And as long as you follow the aggravation-free and correct choreography, you have a really reliable way to start to build your resilience through correct rehabilitation. And the squat is absolutely fantastic for that. And the second benefit of this is that in that early stage of the rehabilitation process, you are often very poorly coordinated. Most of the time, you're throwing yourself up in little ways through the day, through little bits here and little bits there. And so you're really tripping yourself up. And this is the other benefit of the squats. You're not doing the squats to do them in the workout. Absolutely terrible, leave them alone. But you're doing the squat so that it transfers to getting up and down out of chairs, the list goes on. So you're not only practicing a skill in the 20 minutes you might be spending doing your workout each day, or practice in the first instance because you're not doing a workout, you're just practicing the exercise. But you're also continuing that skill, doing everything you're doing every single day. And so there's a significant spillover benefit from the rehabilitation. And gradually, as you improve your technical execution of the squatting motion in a way that does not aggravate your symptoms and in a way that respects correct technique, you will continue to get better and better at the rehab. And so this is really important for the early stages of the rehab to make it safe for you if you're recovering from a herniated disc. Because in those first instances, you are creating the foundational technique. You're learning that when you do a squat, if you do it wrong, this happens, right? Or this happens when you do it wrong. You tuck your bum under, or you wobble your knees all over the place, or you pivot forwards and fold forwards with the torso because you're not holding your chest up and out, right? Those are the mistakes you make in the early days. You learn those so you can identify them, because as you start to build strength, you will continue to make those mistakes. Those mistakes will creep back in. So the reason that we are learning the squat in the first instance is, yes, to get the spillover benefits, is yes, to make daily life safer, but it's also to create the foundation so we can actually build strength for good and properly rehabilitate this injured herniated disc. If you're doing, for example, the Back in Shape program, over the course of 1 week, once you've done the learning, you will do 350 squats. And if you're applying that skill to daily life, that's 350 intentional squats done correctly with practice, plus all the times you're getting in and out of chairs, etc., on a daily basis. Over the course of a month, you're talking about over 1,000 applications of thought, intention to doing a movement and executing it correctly. You're going to be better. If you're actually seriously going about it, you're going to be better at that movement, which has huge protective functions. But what it also means is when you come to phases 2 and phases 3, you're in a situation where you can actually really start to do the work that allows the rubber to meet the road. Because some people will get stuck just doing bodyweight exercises, going over and over again, doing the same thing, like doing 10 squats 3 times a day or whatever the case may be. You're not making strengthening improvement. You're not fulfilling the goal of rehabilitating the spine's capacity to bear load in that scenario. And this is a really important point. Strengthening requires you to expose the body, the muscles, the ligaments, the tendons, to a specific amount of strain, such that it's just enough to actually stimulate it, challenge it, not too much to cause an injury. But equally, it has to be enough to actually challenge it, right? If you finish doing 10 squats and you could do another 10 immediately afterwards, you're not at that level. So you have to be able to get to the level. But in doing so, we have to negotiate load, an amount of load. And we don't know, nobody knows, your surgeon doesn't know, I don't know, you don't know, until you try it, what that load is and where that load is. And that's a really important and very nerve-wracking part of the rehabilitation process. But if you think about the work that you've done to build good technique on the squat, you've really built an asset base that gives you confidence to go and do that work. And it has to be done by everyone as part of their rehabilitation process if they want to move on to build strength and resilience. You have to challenge the muscles at the right level. You have to challenge the spine at the right level. And you don't know what that level is until you try it. But you better be sure you've got good technique before you start to pressure test the system. Otherwise, you're leaving yourself open to a whole host of trouble. And so that technique that you've been practicing over and over again means as you start to get to the early phases of the rehabilitation process for your herniated disc, as you start to really look at the process of starting to build strength and resilience in your spine, you feel confident that you've done this squat thousands of times already. You know how to perform it well. You've validated that many, many times on your exercises. You know you can perform it aggravation-free. You know you can perform it with correct choreography. And now you're going to test it. And this is the phase 3 process that we talk about in the Back in Shape program, doing the discovery workouts. But now starts the process of using the squat, the same exercises you did the day you'd had a back surgery, for example, or the day you flared your back up. You got out of a chair, you got off the toilet seat, you sat down on the edge of your bed, feeling sorry for yourself, rightly so, and you did a squat. And now you're doing exactly the same exercise in a more formalized process, testing your resilience, testing where your limits are safely, responsibly, arguably in a way that is much safer than it was before you even injured your back. And now you can start to explore where that limit is. And that's the process of starting to build resilience, exposing the tissues to the right amount of strain and progressing on from there. So the squat has a number of attributes to it, which is why it's such a powerful exercise. And it's not a complete rehabilitation program, please bear that in mind, but it is such an essential exercise that it can't be, I would argue, it shouldn't be outside of the program. It improves your day-to-day, a movement that you do multiple times every single day, no matter how good or bad you are. It is a movement that we cannot avoid doing in any way, shape, or form. It provides us with a safe, scalable approach that is accessible to anyone with zero cost to start improving the recovery prospects of their lower back injury and supporting that process. It gives you confidence as you build evidence doing the movement successfully, aggravation-free. And then it's suitable at the middle stages of the recovery. It's suitable at the strongest stages of recovery further on. And you can continue to do that same exercise with kettlebells, with dumbbells, with barbells, and so on and so forth to continue to refine your technique, to get better at technique with more load and make your back more resilient for the long term. The only thing that is missing is that element of asymmetry, which is why we pair it with other exercises like the step up and the single leg hip hinge. But it is such a powerful exercise because it gives you an avenue to safely and reliably, ultimately, expose this injured disc to the right amount of strain to build strength and resilience over the long term. And that is all the difference. That is why the squat is such a powerful exercise.